shit makes you cry? Have you ever needed something so bad you can't sleep at night? Have you ever tried to find the words but they don't come out right?
What's good, everybody? It's your girl, Shantae Presley, and thank you so much for tuning in to the 13th episode of TaeTalk TV. With me today, I have a very special guest, but before I introduce her, I just want to tell you guys to please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you don't miss future episodes. And with no further ado, I would like to introduce my very special guest. She is an Ohio native, a coffee expert, and a student at NYU. And with me, I have Kayla.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Pretty good. Feeling nervous. Feeling good right now.
We're so happy to have you.
I'm so
Thank
happy
you
to be
much
here.
for
I'm
being
excited. Yeah.
Yay, I'm glad. I thought it was really important to have Kayla here today because she is such a phenomenal young woman. She's very bright, very outgoing, and beautiful.
Oh my God.
And I definitely think that sometimes reflects victims of violence, abduction, sex trafficking, things of that nature. But I thought it was important to talk about this because it's something that is so common.
Right. Yeah.
It's something that we don't talk about enough and we don't prepare our young girls for. And I feel like what better way than to open up the dialogue here
Right. Yeah.
on TaeTalk. So again, thank you so much for being here. Before we hop into all that, though, I do want to just get to know you a little better. So if you want to tell our viewers just a little bit about yourself.
So, yeah, I am from Ohio, like she said. I moved here when I was a senior in high school for my dad's job. I got transferred out here, but I work at a studio in Hollywood now, which is really cool. And I don't really know. I mean, like, there's not really much else about me, but I really am into true crime and everything, which I feel like is why I've been so invested in this case and everything. I've been following it ever since it really started and started getting out there on the media, as well as other cases. I've kind of always been like that and been into criminology and everything. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about this topic with you today.
Absolutely, and we're glad to have you. Like I mentioned earlier, you're a student at NYU, and just tell us what it is that you're studying.
Yeah, so I'm not like going to NYU necessarily, not moving to New York or anything, but I'm doing an online program with them for film and TV essentials, basically. It's a like from script to wrap course of like the entire production process, basically just giving you a really good idea of where you want to work in the industry and stuff. I'm not very far into it yet, but it's really cool so far. Really enjoying it, and hopefully I'll know exactly where I want to go in the industry after I'm done with this. So,
Well, I definitely have a few ideas for you.
really?
Just based on some of the conversations that Kayla and I have had, like she mentioned, she's into like criminal justice, follow like a lot of crime shows, a lot of active cases and things like that. Tell me, have you ever had an interest in like criminal justice or pursuing a career in that?
So, yeah, I actually, when I was in high school, that was my original path. My original career path was to go, I applied to UC Irvine for criminology, and that's actually like the second best school in the country for criminology, which is why I really wanted to go there. It unfortunately did not work out for me from my senior year, but after that, I went to Santa Monica for community college, and I started studying journalism there. And then I tried to use that to transfer to either UCLA for psychology, just because, I don't know, I guess that was kind of dumb because I just really wanted to go to UCLA. It wasn't really for my career choice. But the UC Irvine, though, I did want to go for criminology, and I ended up getting waitlisted and then finally getting in. But I got like no financial aid though, and I just like wasn't really ready for that financial burden, so I decided to like hold off a little bit. Okay. I feel like it worked out in the long run though, because I kind of, while I still have a big interest in that, I'm not really totally sure that I want to make that my career, just because it is really heavy and stuff. I feel like you have to be a certain type of person to handle that kind of thing, because reading about it and actually being there and being the person like investigating is like super different.
Yeah.
So I thought about it, but I feel like what I'm going into now is more me.
Those are two very different things, and it definitely takes a certain type of personality to be able to like deal with that.
Yeah, you have to be very hard emotionally.
Exactly. I do want to ask you, do you feel like you were a feminist?
Yes, yeah, totally. I mean, I guess like there's two different I feel like there's two different views, well, many different views of feminism and stuff, of like what people view it as and stuff. I personally, I don't think that women are necessarily better than men. I just fully believe that there is like not equality between the two genders and that there should be and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like people have feminism is not misandry. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I definitely agree. I think there are a lot of common misconceptions about what feminism is. And like you said, there are different layers, different views. It's not one-dimensional. There's not one hard definition, I feel like, of feminism. But I definitely think that it starts with equality. That's the main thing.
Of course.
But then also just like when it comes to acts of violence or cases where women are the victims. Predominantly the victims. Right. I do feel like sometimes the way the cases are handled or the victims are handled kind of reflects some of those views that I don't want to say like are anti-feminism, but maybe they it kind of just shows why it's important to be a feminist. There was
something that was kind of interesting that I read about. It was in the 1890s, journalists, they were called yellow journalists, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with the term yellow journalist, but it's basically just I mean, I don't want to give like a cold hard definition because I'm not like totally, but it's basically just like they exaggerated and stuff just to get like sales and everything and like help their like news outlets and everything become like bigger, I guess, and get more like, I don't know, whatever. It was stupid, but it was a thing, and they predominantly used like a whole like damsel in distress like character like to do those like fakes, not necessarily fake, but like over exaggerated stories and stuff just to like push like their news outlet because people found that like interesting, like automatically. And that was kind of what you were just saying, was that people handle these cases like women are like damsels in distress. Like if a guy goes missing, like it's horrible and everything, but they don't really like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to say that they don't treat it the same as they do like a woman going missing, because I don't know. I just like,
they don't. No,
they don't. Yeah, they don't.
don't.
But, and it's like, it's not that they like think that the guy would be able to get himself out of it or something, whereas the woman can't, you know what I mean? In that way. But it's like, they just treat like women more like, oh, like what was she doing to get herself into this situation? You know what I mean? Like, why was she like, you know, they just, I don't know. Like, if the guy goes missing, it's like, oh my God, somebody must have overpowered him and it was like a horrible like fight or something that must have went down. But if a girl goes missing, it's like, okay, well, what was she doing? What was she wearing?
Who was she with?
Was she dating the guy? Like, did she just like let him in and trust him? Why did she do that? Why did she trust him? Like,
was
they don't
she drinking? What was she wearing?
Yeah,
like that.
They don't question the manipulation of the guy. They question like, what was the girl doing to make the guy act like this? But I'm like, why are we even asking that? Like, why are we even? And that we can just get into that with the whole case later. There's a lot of that.
Wow.
It's horrible.
And it definitely is. And you can see a lot of this like playing out even with the case that we're going to discuss today, which is Gabby Petito. Yes. If you're unfamiliar, she's a young woman. She's a 22-year-old girl from Long Island who went missing after a trip across the country with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. And he returned home with her vehicle, with her van, and without her. And I believe she went missing, or she was reported missing September 11th.
Yes.
Was the day that she was reported missing. And you're kind of just, we're all seeing this case unfold in real time.
Right.
And I do want you to elaborate a little bit more on it, but just with what I've been seeing in the media, it's crazy, first off, how powerful the media is.
Yeah. That's been very prevalent in this case.
Very prevalent in this case. And, I mean, just Gabby in general, I feel like it's kind of, I wouldn't say getting thrown to the wayside, but I just feel like we need to remember that this was a young person, not even just a young woman, but a young person who lost her life and went missing. And, you know, the case has just kind of been a circus, but I'll let you elaborate and just kind of, if you could explain the details and the events that took place.
Absolutely. So, from my understanding, of course, I don't want to like say anything as fact, because also some of these things that I'm going to say are just my opinion of what I think may happen. But I will preface that before I say it, of course. But they did set out on their road trip in July, and then August 11th is where the first altercation actually happened that really like was a stepping stone in this case once they were trying to actually solve it, because she didn't get reported missing until a month later, right? But August 11th, her and Brian were actually pulled over by the police, and there's body cam footage that is all over the internet that's like over an hour long, and they got pulled over because somebody called 911 and said that they saw a couple fighting on the side of the road, and that like the guy was slapping the girl. Like that's like what he said.
A witness called officers after seeing the couple get physical, and tonight domestic violence experts looked at much of that video as well. Fox 13's Brianna Ardano joins us now live with us one in Tampa with their reaction. Hi there, Brianna. I know this certainly shows a lot of tension between the two.
And Mark, officers ended up talking to both of them separately and ultimately did not cite Gabby with domestic violence. And tonight, those survivor advocates tell us that there's a lesson here in checking in with others.
And so the cops, of course, went out to where it happened. And like, weirdly enough, like when they pulled up, like, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. Brian was probably just very on edge. But I mean, I think that says something about like his demeanor at the moment. Like, why was he that on edge if he wasn't doing anything wrong, right? He hit a curb like when they pulled him over. So like, that's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like weird, right? Like he obviously was like super disoriented.
Right.
And they get pulled over. Gabby's absolutely hysterical. The cops go up to her car. Like, this is something that also the cops didn't pick up on it at all. So I don't want to say it as 100% fact, but I did see it in the video and I believe that I saw it. Mm-hmm. She did do the domestic violence like signal and stuff, which, being somebody who is so like well versed on the internet, she was a YouTuber, she did Instagram and everything, like that signal has been like well spread across the internet to where I feel like she would know about it and stuff. So like it seemed very intentional. It wasn't just like a little like hand movement that people were mistaking it as.
This clip when officers first approached the van. There's speculation Petito could have been doing this violence at home signal for help.
It's very hard to look in those recordings what's actually going on. It's kind of frantic. So, I mean, you can probably read into it, you know, what you want to read into it as far as what she may or may not have done. But the bottom line is I think people need to understand, once again, that there is a lot of domestic violence in our communities, and often the domestic violence escalates to a situation where there is a homicide.
If you could just show us what the hand movement is so that people know.
So you just take your thumb and then go like this. That's just like the hand signal for if you're going through domestic violence, you want somebody to help you. Just hide your hand, kind of do that and everything. And hopefully a lot of people will know what this means. Unfortunately, the cops clearly didn't pick up on this in this situation, which could have saved Gabby's life, unfortunately. But it's good for people to know about it now. So I'm glad we're talking about it. But so after that happened, the cops it was really just like heart-wrenching to watch the video, honestly, because she was so like distraught, and like even as somebody who doesn't have any experience and like any like education in the psychology, well, I mean, I don't have like formal education in the psychology or criminology field, but like you could clearly see through her body language that like this is not a girl who's just, because Brian painted her to be like all like stressed out and freaking out and stuff and like having a panic attack, and that's why she was crying and being hysterical and everything. He was trying to say that he was trying to calm her down and that she was trying to grab keys from him, and she had her phone in her hand, and so she hit him with her phone because he had marks on his face. And so the cops actually ended up checking him for injuries.
I know I shouldn't push, but I was trying to push her way to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe. And she got me with her phone.
Utah police released this body camera footage showing their encounter with Gabby and her boyfriend before she disappeared. You saw some of that earlier in Evan's story, but here's more. A witness called officers after seeing the couple get physical, and tonight domestic violence experts looked at much of that video as well. Fox
and like fully like believed that Gabby was the one that was like hitting him and stuff, and then like she even covered for him though. That's what's really like sad about it, is because she was sitting there like literally telling the cops like, I mean, I guess I just hit him or something. Like, literally, you could see that she didn't even believe what she was saying.
What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
This body camera footage from Moab police in Utah shows officers talking to Gabby Petito before she disappeared. A witness called officers about a potential domestic violence situation on August 12th after seeing Gabby and her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, argue and get physical.
She talks about her mental health issues, her OCD specifically, and that that there was some tension between the two. He acknowledged tension between them, so you could tell that this was an escalating situation.
Clara Reynolds with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay tells us remotely they handle calls all the time from people looking for help in domestic violence situations. Reynolds watched the body cam video and says it's important to trust your gut if you see something.
So at least at this,
which is why it was super horrible, and like I feel like that part is like really relevant to later on in the case of why people are having so much speculation about other things that Brian may or may not have did. But in terms of their case itself, after that, the cops separated them for the night, but then just gave them permission to meet back up together the next morning instead of the next day. They were just like, okay, here you go, Brian, stay here, Gabby, pick him up the next morning. And so then Gabby even said to him, like, oh, I love you, I can't wait to see you in the morning. That was the message that she gave to the cops for Brian, which was like, it's just so interesting to think about, but like
there are layers, and we'll get into it.
Right, exactly. Like what kind of relationship she was in and stuff, and it's just really sad that they didn't pick up on it in the moment. But yeah, and so actually, according to their YouTube channel, life kind of went back to normal after that. Like they were posting content. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was from that 2-week period because of where they were in their timeline and stuff. It made sense that it was after they got pulled over. This content was filmed, and they seemed okay.
Right.
And then come August 25th through the 27th or so, I don't want to don't quote me on that, but around that time is when Gabby received the last text message, or Gabby's mom received the last text message that she ever received from Gabby, which was no service in Yosemite, and that's all she said. And previously, before that, she had sent another text saying something about her grandfather, like, please help Stan. I keep getting his voicemails or something, and her mom was like, you don't refer to your grandpa by his first name. That's so weird, which led her to believe that Gabby wasn't texting. So that was really interesting. And then after that, they didn't really they started speculating what was going on. Brian returned home to Florida and stuff in this time period between when she got reported missing and August 27th. Between then, he returned home to Florida. Her parents are obviously freaking out, have no idea what's going on. Why isn't Brian saying anything, right? And they reported her missing on September 11th. And then once everything started going crazy, these couples this couple said that they saw Gabby and Brian in a restaurant arguing the night of August 27th. And that is the last time Gabby was ever seen alive, was by this couple in this restaurant.
Not only but saw a blowout of a situation between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie in Wyoming when we were there. I'm freaking the fuck out. Yes, we have already talked to authorities. How I did not put 2 and 2 together that this happened, I don't know. So I'm following this case. Matt's not. He's a guy. He has other shit going on. He could probably care less. I'm filling him in on this case a couple days ago, and I guess maybe he Googled it and saw a picture of Brian. Matt has an insane photographic memory. And so for 2 days now, he's like, I fucking know that guy Brian. I don't know how, but I know this guy Brian. I've seen him before. When Matt says that, anyway, we were in Wyoming. So Matt woke up this morning and he's freaking out. And he's like, oh my God, I know how he looks familiar. Nina, we saw them in Wyoming. They were the couple fighting at the restaurant. We were at this restaurant, you guys. Friday, August 27th, 1 p.m., sitting right next to them. They got kicked out of the restaurant and were fighting with the hostess. They were fighting with the hostess. She was hysterically crying, and she walked out, and she was crying, and she was staying on the sidewalk, and I was watching the whole thing unfold. And he walked back in the restaurant and he's fighting with the hostess. And I didn't know what happened. I don't even know if they got kicked out, but they like left abruptly. And like she was standing on the sidewalk crying, and he walked back in and was like screaming at the hostess, and then walked back out. And then he walked back in like 4 more times to talk to the manager and to like tell the hostess off.
Yeah, like they talked about it on the news, and the wife was like, I have chills just like thinking about it and stuff, because like they could have easily been the last people to see her alive. Once everything started going crazy, that's when like, because obviously pieces of the case like weren't getting put together until after everything happened. So like in September is when really everything started getting like pieced together and stuff. Right. So Brian and his parents actually went camping in a reserve in Florida, and like literally like right before Gabby was reported missing. So it was like from the 6th to the 8th or so, I believe. They went camping together, and the neighbors confirmed this. The lawyers of the Laundries confirmed this. There's footage of them doing it. They all 3 went camping together.
2 weeks into the urgent search for Brian Laundrie, we're learning new details about what he was doing the days before he went missing. After returning home on September 1st without his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, Laundrie purchased a new cell phone at an AT&T store in Northport. The family's attorney would not say why Brian needed the new phone or what, if anything, happened to his old phone, but says that phone is now in FBI custody. The FBI also now in possession of surveillance video from the Laundrie family camping trip at Fort DeSoto Park. Brian and his parents spent 3 days at this campground in Pinellas County, Florida over Labor Day weekend.
And then they all 3 came back. Then they all left again, and the neighbors saw them packing up like a truck that seemed too small for them to all go camping, but they were like, whatever, like they know what they're doing, so they didn't think anything of it. And then Brian never came back. So only the parents did. And then it wasn't until like the 14th, the parents are like, oh my gosh, our son's missing. Police, please help us. Like, we found his truck. Here's his truck, because they drove the truck back from the campground. They said that they found it and that he was out hiking in a reserve that was, by the way, infested with snakes and alligators, and because it was rain season in Florida right now. And so it's like, it doesn't make sense that he would go hiking out there. But yeah, they obviously found Gabby's body shortly after she was reported missing because of another YouTube video where they spotted the van in Grand Teton National Park.
Tonight, the FBI announcing a medical examiner says the body found in Wyoming on Sunday was indeed that of Gabby Petito, the 22-year-old who had vanished while on a cross-country trip with her fiancé. The coroner calling her death a homicide, but the cause has not been released. Well, tonight, police are calling Brian Laundrie a person of interest that they are still looking for. His father, refusing to answer questions tonight, was seen leaving the family home. As many as 8 agencies resumed the search of a huge reserve in Florida where his family said he was going. And the conditions there are challenging. The water waist deep and infested with alligators and snake. Investigators are also chasing down multiple tips, possible sightings of Laundrie, some from hundreds of miles away.
Where they found her body was right by where the van was spotted. And the cause of death actually still hasn't been released, but they do know it was a homicide, and Brian has not been found since. So that is the timeline of the case.
Wow, and that it's insane. It's insane, which I know you mentioned earlier that you're not a criminal investigator, but I feel like when there's so much evidence out here, when you literally have videos and footage that support this timeline, you don't have to be.
You don't, yeah, it's kind of just, and that's why it really just frustrates me that the cops, like, didn't do more in that first, like, hour of being with them and going back and forth between Gabby and Brian. Like, they should have seen that something was off there, because Brian was incredibly calm the whole time, like, in the video. Like, you can clearly see that he was just, like, chilling, while Gabby was absolutely hysterical. And he was even joking with the cops, laughing with them and stuff. Like, he was, like, and then, like, the moment that the cop came to tell him, like, Gabby says she loves you and that she'll see you tomorrow, like, you could just see it on his face. He was like, okay, I won. Like, he literally got, like, the green light. Like, he was fine. Like, he was totally confident after that, which is, in my opinion, which is not professional at all, but I feel like that is what kind of, like, set him off on his, like, oh, okay, like, I'm cool. Like, because he's clearly very, I mean, he's not an organized killer, but he's a confident killer. At least right now.
Do you think that confidence has anything to do with him being white?
Yeah, I think I mean, maybe. I don't want to say that it doesn't, but I don't think that he thinks that. Like, if it does have anything to do with it, I feel like it's not conscious with him. Like, you know what I mean? I think that he's really confident because he's confident in his skills and his, like, because clearly he was super into, like, his outdoor life and stuff. Like, that was, like, his whole personality, basically, onto social media and stuff, right? Like, being, like, an outdoorsy person who could go on a van trip across the country and be fine, right? Well, a friend revealed, actually, that Brian had previously went off the grid in the Appalachian Mountains for, like, a couple months or something, which is, like, a lot of people after this, they're connecting the dots and being like, was he like preparing to do something like this? Because he's on the run,
right?
Who knows where, out in nature, and like going and living in the Appalachians for 2 months off the grid with nobody knowing where you are. Like, he literally is like doing the exact same thing right now, which is just like interesting. So it's like, some people say this wasn't organized, and I feel like it wasn't organized, but it could have been planned. But yeah, I don't really know. I also think it could have just been a crime of aggression based on maybe something else that he may have did that Gabby may have been a witness to and stuff, because, like I said, they got pulled over near Moab, or in Moab, which is in, I don't want to say what state that's in because I can't totally remember.
Yeah.
But
we'll Google it.
Right, yeah, Moab. They got pulled over in Moab, and I was going through many sources to see the dates of, like, if this lined up and everything, because, like, a lot of people are connecting it because it seems like it could be very well connected, but the dates were just very, like, all over the place, and I couldn't find a very credible source to, like, back my information up on. But there was a couple in Moab that were last seen on the 13th, I believe, and they were found dead, like, in Moab, and that's literally the time that Gabby and Brian were in Moab, because they got pulled over on the 11th in Moab. Okay. And then their next location, like, was, like, Salt Lake. That was their next, like, major location. That was until the 24th. So, like, there's this whole, like, period of time, and that couple was killed in Moab in that period of time, which is just super interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is a small town, Moab, right? So it's just, like, interesting that there would be, like, 2 murders, like, just within days of each other.
And I wouldn't doubt, I wouldn't doubt if they investigate that further and start connecting.
I think they are. They actually are. The sheriff's departments are communicating with each other from both counties and stuff.
Very smart. Very smart. So it sounds like Brian could be described as definitely a narcissist. Like you said, it sounds like he's very confident in his ability to get away with this.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, just him being so calm in the situation where he's being addressed or, approached by the police, and just her reaction, it kind of shows that he could be capable of something like this.
Exactly. And I feel like part of me feels like at the end of the day, a lot of these killers, like, while they may be super confident, like, oh, I can get away with this, but, like, for how long, right? So it's like, I feel like he might know deep down that, like, there's a chance that he's gonna get caught. And so, like, I mean, perhaps a guy like this may just take this as an opportunity to just do all the stuff he wanted to do and stuff, like, spree, right? You know what I mean? Because, like, people like this, like, you have to be pretty, like, messed up to, like, kill your fiance, especially, like, seeming just so, like, nobody would have expected it, like, from their, like, content and stuff, like, in the moment and everything. But now that you look back on it, there's just, like, weird little things that he did that just make him seem like the type of person that may do something like that.
And so it's so hard to tell, too, because it's like when you're looking at something with that in mind, then it's easier to kind of see that. But I want to ask, were you familiar with Gabby before the case?
No.
Okay. Because I know that she was an aspiring social media influencer.
Yeah, she had a bit of followers on YouTube.
Yeah, she had a large following. It's definitely increased drastically since she has unfortunately passed away. But she was trying to brand herself as, like, a adventure van
life.
Van
life blogger.
Definitely. But yeah, you can literally go back to old videos and watch and kind of get an idea of who these people are and who they were before this whole incident.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure you've been watching a lot of the older videos. I know we don't know much about them outside of what we've seen, but
Right.
do you think that there could be a motive? I know you said that with if they connect the two cases, the couple that ended up dead,
Yeah, then that's obvious.
then that would be a motive. But
Right.
if that
If
somehow
that would be
turns
it.
out not to be true,
Yeah, so, I mean,
what do
it's
you
kind
see
of-
in these cases usually?
I don't know. I mean, like, honestly, with him, it's just, okay, going back to the YouTube videos, like, what I noticed from them was that there were a few different books that Brian had been reading during the trip that people were, like, picking out and being like, okay, let me see what this book's about just because who this guy is. Like,
Right.
they're curious, right? Well, one that really, like, came out was, there was one that he was seen reading in her YouTube just, like, on a day where he was just chilling, like, reading or whatever, and she had, like, filmed him and stuff, panned by. And then also he had posted a picture of it on his Instagram, and he wrote, like, this, like, caption just, like, reveling about the book and everything, and, like, the concept and stuff. And the concept was a couple going on a road trip, and the man becomes a serial killer. So, like, it's just so, like, it's too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's too, like, in your face that it's almost, like, not real. You're kind of like, is this, like, really?
It almost
like,
makes you question, like, is it too coincidental? to
exactly.
be real?
You're like, was he trying to do this? Like, is this what he was trying to do? Like, was he? But that makes you think that he planned it, because it's like these posts were before that would have even been like a thing in his head, like if there was no motive
Right,
and stuff, right?
right.
So it's kind of like interesting that he was posting this stuff, and then even actually, I believe it was the 25th, maybe it was the 27th. People believe that Gabby died on the 27th, most likely, but that's not totally confirmed by autopsy, but by the timeline of the case and where she was last seen, and like when Brian got home, that's where they kind of pinpointed like when they think it happened, which was the day that the people saw them fighting in the diner, which is like interesting.
Yeah.
But what was I?
It's a lot of information.
I know, yeah.
If
Oh,
the couple,
there's, like-
if him not killing the couple, what would be his motive? Like, do you
Right,
know?
yeah. I don't really know. I feel like, because like with the book, like it kind of makes it just seem like he was acting out this like fantasy that he may have like previously had before, which just, I mean, obviously that shows that he has like deeper psychological issues than can really be explained by people on the internet or like people who aren't professionals and stuff. So like, there's really no saying what his motive could have been, but like, I mean, that's what I would think, is that if it wasn't that he did something and Gabby knew about it and he wanted to get rid of her and stuff, and that, because I don't know, to me it seemed like, because he wrote in the caption of his Instagram post with that book that him and his fiance Gabby read the book out loud together, which, right? Like, it's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so part of me feels like he had this whole fantasy of them going on this like whole serial killer road trip together, and then she wasn't into it, and so he.
I mean, because why would she be?
Right, exactly. Yeah, she was completely like sane, obviously. And she was
Right.
just trying to live her life and like do her thing, and I feel like he might have had a completely different idea of where that trip was going to end up, right? So I don't know. And then like, I mean, also about the trip ending up on YouTube, they said repeatedly that their trip was supposed to end on Halloween. And then his post, the last post on Gabby's Instagram that is supposedly, people believe it was posted by Brian, says Happy Halloween in August. So
I did want to know, as a 21-year-old woman in America, do you feel safe?
Well, very quick answer, no. I mean, if it says anything, I feel like most of the people I know, including myself, carry at least mace on them. I have a taser on myself, just literally like all the time in my purse, just because like, I don't know. I mean, it's not that I necessarily believe that like every day walking on the streets that like something's going to happen to me,
Yeah.
but it's just like hearing all the stories that are constantly happening, and even like seeing videos online and stuff, people talking about their personal experiences. Because like a lot of times I'll find on like TikTok recently, like there's a lot of content where people are basically just warning others out there about something that could happen just based off of their personal experience. And I feel like there's never really been a social media platform that I've seen so much of that like transparency from people and stuff to the public, you know? So like, I feel like no, I haven't for like a while, but like in recent years, like it's been significantly worse just because of like the exposure to social media and seeing everybody talk about it and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah,
that's interesting because I feel like then it's like you're fearful of what could happen,
right? Yeah,
or not so much like what has actually.
Yeah,
happened.
so I mean, we don't like have to get into it, but like there are things that have like happened to me or my friends personally and stuff that like do make me fearful and everything just because of that personal experience. But it's like, I don't know, like certain situations just seem like more rare and you kind of feel like a little bit alone in the situation. And it's almost like being alone is like, it really sucks. But like seeing everybody on social media, like having the same experience is almost as a little scarier than being alone because you realize that these problems are like so prevalent and like there's so many more people out there on the streets that might do something to you and than you would have even thought in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
that's true. That's definitely true. I have my own experiences, and like you said, I'm pretty sure you have plenty of experiences as well, where it's just, you never know when you could be the target of an attack, a violent attack, whether it be a kidnap or just an assault or whatever the case is. But I want to ask you, just going a little further, have you or do you know anyone who's been a victim of maybe like domestic violence or abuse within a relationship?
I feel like I don't personally know anybody who's went and reported it, but I do feel like I know plenty of people who have experienced it and who would like talk about it to people who are close to them. But like, it's honestly like sad. I mean, obviously we all know that it's like a huge problem that like most domestic violence or just like any abuse cases and stuff, like they, even if they're from strangers, like a lot of the times, like they're not reported. So I feel like that's the only like experience that I know, which is really horrible, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely know that, like you said, I know a lot of people who have experienced it. It's a common thing. And even go back to what you said earlier about just like feeling like you're going through something and then realizing that so many other people do relate.
Yeah.
I was recently watching OJ versus the People, or The People versus OJ.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen it.
I'm
but
surprised.
I know. Yeah. I've been wanting to watch it. I wanted to watch it like when it came out, but it's kind of like one of those things where I just forgot about it after a while. But I think I watched like the first like bit of it or something with my boyfriend.
You should really watch it. I think
I will.
You would
enjoy
it.
Especially after this conversation. I totally will go back and watch it. I needed to.
Definitely. The lawyer, Marsha Clark, who was actually the lawyer for Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. You find out in the end, just to make a long story short without any spoilers, you find out in the end that she was the victim of assault. And that's what drives her so much in the case and just in life in general, her career path and all that. But the point that she makes in the end is that in her situation, the case was never solved. She didn't speak up, and the reason she didn't speak up is because she didn't feel like anybody would do anything about it.
Right.
And then it was, and obviously we know what happened with the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yeah.
She felt like in that case, the same thing happened.
Yeah.
And it not necessarily rape, but in this case, it was murder.
Right. Yeah.
Violence against a woman. So there are many cases like that, and I would say that even I've experienced my share of like domestic violence or just like situations with a partner that became violent emotionally, physically, and I felt like oftentimes I was saying something to people around me, but maybe they felt like not that it was my fault, but that I was putting myself in this situation. So I feel like a lot with Gabby Petito, when you're saying that she was given the signal and that she was like, in videos, if you looked a little closer, if you looked a little deeper, like the cries for help maybe were there the whole time.
And even like I actually watched a video, I don't know, it's on 60 Minutes actually. It's Australian 60 Minutes, but there was a criminal profiler who actually like went through the whole body cam footage and just kind of like said her thoughts on like what was going on. And in her opinion, which is professional, which mine's not, but I feel the same way she did, the cops should have seen it. Like, there was, like, nothing there that, like, you don't watch that video and look at that as a girl who was just frantic and accidentally hit her husband with her, or her fiance with her phone or something like that. You see a girl who, like, is covering for him in some way. She doesn't know what to do. Like, she's afraid of him, clearly, like, so afraid of him. And she's, like, it's almost like, it's almost like she knew that, like, the cops weren't going to help her in that moment, and so she was afraid of the repercussions of what would have happened if she said anything to the cops about Brian.
What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
This body camera footage from Moab police in Utah shows officers talking to Gabby Petito before she disappeared. A witness called officers about a potential domestic violence situation on August 12th after seeing Gabby and her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, argue and get physical.
You know what I mean? Which is, like, really sad, because, like, as we're talking about, like, we know just sitting here that, like, a lot of the times the cops don't do anything and stuff, and all of these, like, people, like, will report stuff and everything, and it's kind of just turned back around on them, you know what I mean? And, like, if they don't actually, like, it's not that they fully tell you, like, oh, you're lying and this isn't true, but they will turn it back around to where it'll just end up being a diffuse situation in the end, and it doesn't seem as serious as it was, because they just, like, ask you too many questions without just, like, taking what you say for, like, what it is in the moment, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and to their credit, I guess, it's they're doing their job, and, you know, there's protocol, but again.
And that's another thing, which is really hard. It's a really hard subject to kind of think of a solution to, because the government, like, the law and stuff does prohibit them from doing so many things as this person. And, like, in that situation, like, especially, like, if that body cam footage would have came out and they were, like, overly, like, aggressive right at Brian, like, immediately, like, you did this to her and everything, you know what I mean? No matter what they were saying, like, they would have been called out for that. And everything. Like, yeah, like you said. But I don't really know if there's any way to solve that, because in order to do that, you would have to loosen up, like, the laws on, like, police and the way that they're able to, like, prosecute people, which just seems like it's an absolutely horrible idea. We shouldn't do that. But
I would say in some
situations
cases,
like this, though, it seems like it's a great idea. So it's just, it's so confusing.
Yeah, I would say in a lot of situations, but I mean, that it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's not as easy, you know, said, or it's not as easy done as it. You can get
easier said than done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It takes a lot for that process. But what I would say, though, is maybe we can't, you know, obviously they have a job to do and they have to do their job. And you do have women that sometimes take advantage of situations. Let's not discredit that.
Yes.
But what I will say is when women do speak out, although some women are lying, I do think that we should make it more comfortable for them to speak out. We should make it more, I don't know, like, I just feel like sometimes, or so many times, women come out, whether it's rape or violence, and they're questioned. It's automatically like, okay, what did you do to make this situation happen? Were you violent towards him? Were you drunk?
What were you wearing?
Right. Did you cheat? Like, you know, it's kind of like, in cases of rape, it's like, well, she knew what she wanted, or why was she with him? Why did she go back to his place? Why, you know, it's like these seeds of doubt that just kind of like make the victim seem like she's lying.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I guess, like, it would help to make it just more open space, I guess, for women to come forward and say, this happened to me, and to be taken more seriously. And I guess,
yeah, it should be treated like any other investigation that they would be doing about anything else. Because honestly, like, I mean, if you think about it, like, the cops take, like, if somebody were to say that there were, like, a bunch of drugs, like, hidden in the house somewhere, like, they would take that much more seriously than they would, like, a woman being like, hey, this is, like, what happened to me last night and everything, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's a messed up system, and I feel like the cops just, like, aren't properly trained to, like, deal with stuff like
this. The video shows how important law enforcement training is in those situations.
But it's really important that law enforcement knows what they're doing, that they give a potential victim space to be able to safely talk about what's been going on.
And victim advocates say that it is also important to watch for any signs that may be wrong, because every couple is different and those signs may come up as physical or even behavior changes. And so they say that it is important.
That's like another, which is just a whole nother conversation about, like, just too much.
It's a lot. And it's like, you know, And I'd understand on their side too. Like, we're having a hard time just trying to think of a solution. So I can only imagine for them who, you know, once it's said and done, you know, what can they do? But look back in hindsight and be like, oh, we could have, should have.
Right, and with the Gabby case, I'm sure it's like incredibly difficult for the cops that were in that body cam footage to be like looking back on it now, because the whole world is attacking them for the job they did in that moment, which, as they should be, but I don't know. People are also attacking the FBI and the other police departments for the way that they've been handling the search for Brian too. But at the same time, like, and everybody's freaking out about naming him a person of interest instead of a suspect. But that is another obstacle that, like, the cops can't do anything about that. Like, that's straight up the law. Like, unless they have cold hard evidence, like, which to us it seems like there should be, but it seems like there should have been, but in the eyes of the court, apparently. So.
Yeah, and the process, it takes time too.
Yeah,
even,
for sure.
I mean, you see that too with the OJ case, just to go back to that. You see how, like, what the process is to actually get evidence approved, and, like, you know, it has to go through protocol, and it's just like, sometimes that takes a while. So, I mean, it's difficult, and it's a sticky situation, but I do feel like it's a situation that should be taken more seriously. Like, there are women who are dying, and I mean, besides Gabby Petito, there are a lot of cases that often go unsolved. You know, I mean, in this case, isn't even solved yet. They're still trying to find Brian now, and, you know, we don't even know what that trial would look like. Yeah, you know, what the results would be. It could very much be a situation like OJ, where I mean.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
We can only hope that she gets justice that she deserves. But
exactly.
We have a flawed system, unfortunately.
We do have a flawed system. We do. And it's, again, it's hard. It's, you know, we're all humans. No one's perfect. What can you do but trial and error, I guess?
Right, yeah. I can't come up with a solution, right? So.
And not right here.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So. I don't know, but I do feel like the media has a lot to do with how cases go, unfortunately, as well. Sometimes fortunately, though.
Yeah.
I would say in cases like Ahmaud Arbery, sorry, I'm jumping around everywhere, but that case, honestly, the men who shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery, they wouldn't be in jail now if it wasn't for the media creating outrage and, you know, like, bringing attention to that case, because it did just fall by the wayside. These men were, you know, that just moved on with their lives as this man was dead, like, dead. Yeah. But then you have situations like this where the media can sometimes have a negative effect on the case. You've been able to follow Gabby Petito's story and this whole manhunt for Brian Laundrie, but in the same breath, you have the media who's also, like, diverting attention away from it by creating all these other narratives, or not even creating narratives, but maybe, like, using it as a tool to, like, push their own agenda.
Yeah, which has been around for quite a long time. News outlets have been doing that. Like, literally, like, the moment that this case, like, got any traction whatsoever, like, every single news media outlet, like literally every single one, like, as I was doing research, even just, like, brushing up on facts and stuff, like, it was absolutely insane to see the amount of articles, videos, like, even just, like, one news network, there will be, like, 10 videos about her case just from them specifically within the past week and stuff, which is just, like, crazy, right? Yeah. It just, I don't know. Yeah, it, like, and these videos, though, are getting millions of views because the public is so invested in this case. So, like, you kind of have to think about it, like, yes, maybe they are trying to get the word out about these things, but at the end of the day, like, there's a certain point where you know that everybody knows these details, and at this point you're just making timelines of her case so that you can get clickbait on your channel and stuff, which is just kind of messed up. And
yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like you said, that they've been doing that forever, even with the OJ case. You know, it became more about the press and the media and, you know, that than what was actually happening in the court. Yeah. So with that, I would have to bring up the whole white missing syndrome thing that has been like a narrative since the Gabby Petito stories come out. For those who are not familiar, that is just, to put it briefly, when a white woman goes missing, that seems to get a lot more media coverage than I would say any minority.
Yes. Yeah.
Not only that, I would just say there's just more of a determination to solve the case, to bring that person to justice, to, I don't know. Pretty much just
exactly.
Something is done about it, and you see it in the media, and then it's like, okay, you know that there are all these other cases where that same media attention isn't there. That coverage isn't there, and just the determination to get justice isn't there.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely think that obviously, white people have an incredible amount of privilege in our society. They always have and stuff. And I feel like obviously that has something to do with it and everything. They automatically have more attention toward that case just because for whatever reason they see the typical American white family as like, I don't know. It's almost like, I saw somebody compare it to like a really messed up America's Sweetheart vibe. Like you kind of like this little like innocent seeming girl goes missing and stuff. And so everybody automatically, like people were literally saying like they were referring to her as like everybody's daughter, like on like vigils and stuff for her, which I feel like is just something that you don't really like. You just, I don't have an explanation for it because I don't really understand it. Like I just feel like but like the public isn't really doing it themselves. Like you have to blame like pretty much all of it on the media because like really like the public wouldn't be like giving this much attention to this case if the media wasn't like just shoving it down their throats, right? Which not that they shouldn't be.
Yeah,
they should
exactly.
be.
I don't want to say
right.
that.
Yeah, they absolutely should be. Like we should have done everything that we did to find her and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. And then but like you were saying, like I don't know if anybody, I don't want to say his last name because I'm not totally sure that I remember it, but his name is Jelani, and his mom had to like come out and like make a video and put it on the internet to be like, I feel so much for Gabby's parents, but why is my son not getting the same attention that she's getting? Because he went missing at the same time. He had an incredibly weird disappearance that didn't make any sense whatsoever. He was a great student. He was a great kid. Not that that even matters because he's a missing kid at the end of the day, and that's all that matters. But he went missing. He disappeared out of his car just randomly and never talked to his mom since then. And nobody really did anything about it until his mom literally came onto the internet and begged people to care the same way for him that they did for Gabby.
His family and professor first reported him missing on August 25th. On the 24th, he was captured on surveillance video going into a dispensary in Bloomington. 2 days later, police found his car in the woods 60 miles away in Peru. Police say the clothes he was last seen wearing in the surveillance video was found in his white Chrysler 300.
I need to know where my son is. I want to find my son. I need them to use all the resources that I just watched them make available to Gabby Petito and her family.
On September 4th, a search team found a body in the Illinois River near Peru. The coroner told Bolden's family it could take several weeks or months to identify the body because of it.
But as soon as that happened, the internet did blow up for him, which is why I do feel like we really do have to blame it on the media, because the moment that his mom came out and said that, the media did start picking up on it. And what did people do? They started trying to help find Jelani, right? And and even Gabby's dad, he actually came out and he said about like Jelani and everything after his mom made that video. He said that he feels so hard for her and everything, and he literally like publicly told everybody that this same attention should be given to like any kid that's going missing out there, like not just his daughter and stuff. So they're definitely acknowledging the same thing that we are in this conversation. So.
No, and I definitely appreciate that too, coming from them, because I do feel like sometimes it does take a white voice to vocalize something for people to realize.
They have a voice, especially right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I definitely appreciate them using that to speak on that and just bring light to that, because it is important. And like you said, once it was brought to the media's attention, people start trying to help. Just like with Ahmaud Arbery, once that became like, it surfaced, it resurfaced months later.
Right.
But once it did, people picked up on it, and then it became all that anybody was talking about. So it just goes to show that, you know, sometimes I think the media, they have an idea of what they think people want to see or what people gravitate towards, what people click or relate to or empathize with, and they stick with that. And,
and our media is very outdated in the way that they feel like, because you know what I think part of it is too, is that like us as younger people and stuff, like the younger generation, like we kind of see it like, this isn't what people want to see anymore. Like we want you to push these cases and stuff. But like, honestly, like I can personally say I haven't watched the news just like on my own, on my TV in years. So like we aren't the crowd that they're really like targeting and stuff. So you have to like, we have to kind of think about that, I guess. Cause like, of course the younger generations are a lot more progressive and stuff. And we would like them to put more light on different things other than sometimes the just irrelevant things that they put on the news and stuff when there's so many like horrible things going on in the world. But that older generation just likes to keep their eyes closed to it sometimes. Not all of them, but most.
Those boomers.
Right.
But that is one good thing about social media, I will say, because you can't really control that. You know what I mean? Like if people are talking about it, it's gonna trend. So it's like you can't control that or manipulate it. You know, it is what it is. So it is. I would definitely say I credit Gen Z for being those advocates that really, with TikTok especially.
Yeah, TikTok has changed
those advocates that really, with TikTok especially.
Yeah, TikTok has changed the game for like everything, literally everything. It's pretty insane, the influence. And I feel like this is the first time I've really seen it influence something like this and like a murder case and stuff. Like we've never seen anything like it. And like without like the videos going viral on TikTok and those people going back into their YouTube channel to be like, wait a second, we were at Grand Teton National Park. Let me look through my footage, and they found the van right where they found Gabby's body and stuff. Like none of that would have happened without social media. So like there's like a chance that they wouldn't have even found her. Yeah. Like without like social media and YouTubers and stuff. It's just crazy.
It is crazy to think, you know. And I do want to also say that I feel like another reason why she's getting so much attention is she was an aspiring social media like influencer. Right. So she did already have like a following, and she kind of had a storyline, and like you said, videos to watch and tune in to kind of put the pieces together. So
and people really enjoyed the like symbolic things that they were picking out of their Instagrams, which was another interesting thing that I saw a video about on the 60 Minutes that I was watching. They were talking about like why are people so into like picking out the details from their Instagrams and their past Instagram posts and stuff. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with like true crime and stuff being so like accessible to us now on social media and everything. All of us are interested in it, whereas like back when social media didn't exist, like you didn't have all these true crime podcasts, you didn't have like these YouTubers talking about all these, like, because I watch a girl named Bailey Sarian who does Murder Mystery and Makeup Monday. She literally talks about murder mysteries while she does her makeup, and she's great. I
haven't tuned into that.
No, it's great. Exactly. And so like we just have like a newfound interest in cases like this and stuff. So I feel like they just need to use it for. It may not be totally healthy for our brains to be into that kind of stuff and into learning about it. And
I would say before, you know, TikTok and social media, we have Forensic Files.
No, you had it. No, there's shows and stuff, right? But like, it's more like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it's like trendy to be like a true crime fan now, like nowadays.
Really?
Like, totally. Like if you go on, like if you literally look up the hashtag like true crime on TikTok, like it's like one of like, it's like a huge topic. Like people think it's like cool, and that's why people started talking about like that, like the Ted Bundy song, the song like talking about why are you people romanticizing Ted Bundy and stuff. People made that music, they were making these videos, they started talking about it for a reason, and it's because true crime on TikTok just like went crazy like over the past like couple years, I guess.
Oh, I didn't realize. See, this is not a millennial thing.
I swear. Like,
but speaking of Ted Bundy, you know, Zac Efron, he played Ted Bundy in the movie. we call it a biopic.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. Zac Efron played him, and I really felt like it should have been the guy who played Joe from You.
It should not have been Zac Efron. He is literally, like, I mean, okay, no matter how you feel about Zac Efron, you know that, like, everybody views him as, like, this, like, attractive, like, heartthrob type of guy or whatever, right? So, like, why would you cast him as a killer?
I feel like they did that because Ted Bundy is considered hot, although he is a murderer, which is, like, this
I know, but that's so toxic.
It is toxic, but I feel like it's really popular.
They got a lot more traction from that movie by actually casting an attractive Ted Bundy. I think.
That's true.
Totally. And Lily Collins.
That's true.
Yeah.
They did great.
I wouldn't say it's good casting, but I would say it's casting that people will eat up.
Yeah, and you know, that's what Hollywood does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You is coming back out on October 15th, and this is their 3rd season. I know when it first premiered, I believe in 2019, or it might have been 2018. Whenever it came out, I just know it had a lot of women's significant others questioning them and their taste in men, because we all found ourselves attracted to Joe Goldberg.
Yeah.
And it was odd because I don't know if you're a fan of the show. Are you a fan of the show?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just me.
No, not at all.
Whenever I tuned into it, when I first watched it, I felt very confused about how I felt about the character, because I'm like, he's obviously stalking people, killing people.
Totally.
Well, in the beginning, just stalking people, so it's just like, okay, I don't know how to feel about someone who's doing that. This is obviously weird. But then you start to like him? Or is that me?
Yeah, no, I did, and that's what I talked about it with my grandma, who actually really enjoyed the show too. We talked about it a lot, and she thought the same thing. She was like, why do I like him, but I love Beck, and I don't want him to hurt her, but I love Joe, and I want them to work out. It was more like, for me, I guess it was that I didn't like Joe necessarily. It was more that I wanted their relationship to work out, even though it was so toxic, which was like interesting. I was just like, why do I want this to work out? Why don't I want her to run away and get away from him immediately? You know, it was, yeah. I had me questioning myself.
Yeah. No, but you know what? Now that I think about it, it kind of puts you in the eyes of a victim. Because, you know, like, just, we see, it opens up with Joe, but then we also are introduced to Guinevere, Beck, who we see what kind of woman she is. We're seeing her from Joe's perspective, so you kind of see her flaws and all, but you still relate to her. She's very relatable.
Yes.
Very relatable. She's beautiful. She's smart. She is self-conscious, and you know, she has self-doubt like most women do, and you watch her fall in love with this woman who she doesn't realize is a stalker, but we do, you know, as viewers. And it's crazy because from her perspective, you know, you'd be like, oh, how didn't you see this coming?
Right.
You know, how didn't you see the signs here? But then you see how charming he is, and then you also are rooting for their relationship, like you said. And it's just like, wow, you know, it shows how easy it is to become a victim of, you know, an unhealthy, manipulation, an unhealthy relationship. But recent shows definitely tend to romanticize like toxic relationships, but also
crazy.
Serial killers.
Yeah, serial killers is like that's like a way too concentrated topic in the media now. I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like that's what they want. So they want you to talk about them. We just shouldn't give them that attention. They're not good.
That's good. So I did want to ask you, do you feel like, you know, just because as women we do tend to romanticize these people, whether we in real life would date a serial killer, I highly doubt it. Right. But there are, you know, obviously traits that they possess that women find attractive.
Yeah. I feel like what they find attractive is that they are obsessed with them, and I feel like a lot of the times, like, if you are attracted to that, it's because you're like, you don't fully like have a relationship with yourself to where like you want to find that love with somebody else. And so when somebody gives you that type of Joe Goldberg attention, like, you don't really see it for what it is, and you're just blinded by the fact that like, oh my gosh, somebody loves me so much, just like Beck was. That's why she kept going back to him despite all the red flags, because she was so insecure. They made that a very big point in the show.
That is
so true. Yeah, that's it.
Honestly, I think you hit a really good point that people don't talk about, or they make women feel bad for that, because that is essentially what it is. You're insecure. There's a void that you're trying to fill that this attention fills. You know, you feel like this person's giving you all this attention. It makes you feel worthy.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people like they kind of like. I mean, I guess I wouldn't like always call it, because like people really like take insecurity and like make it something that like they really like get down on women for being insecure, and they make it like a womanly thing to be insecure, if that makes sense. Yeah, and like even for like guys though, that like becomes a problem too, because if a guy is insecure or something, like they're looked at like they're not masculine or something like that just for being insecure, like for being like that. It's more of like a feminine trait to be that way, which is, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't like, with Beck and stuff even, like it's not that she was insecure and she just didn't like the way that she looked and therefore she wanted the attention. It was that she literally was like missing like a relationship with yourself that like a lot of people feel like they a lot of people don't know that they need it, you know what I mean? Because it's something that like I feel like, especially like even right now, like I feel like I don't fully have one, you know what I mean? Like a relationship with myself, and like it's something that I found that I have to work really, really hard to like actually get to that point and stuff. So I just feel like people don't talk about it enough, and they like mask everything as insecurity, but really it's a lot deeper than that. You know, it's not all about the way that men or the world perceive us. It's more just like the way we perceive ourselves and stuff. So.
Yeah, honestly, I love that. I love that you said that, because I feel like more young girls need to see that, yes, it is deeper than that. It's deeper than skin deep. You guys see it here. This is a beautiful young lady who, you know, can admit that she definitely has a relationship that she needs to work on with herself. I feel like, honestly, you just taught me something, you know?
I'm glad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like sometimes we don't know how to put into words exactly what it is that we need or what we're lacking or what it is that we need to work on, and it's easy to say insecurity.
Right.
I'm insecure, you know, I have this to work past, but what is it?
Yeah, but why are you feeling that way? Because like at the end of the day, like our body is the least interesting thing about us and stuff, and like if you really think about it, like you know that's true, but you just like, you feel like you're like, but why do I care about it so much? But it's like, it's not that you care about that so much. It's your perception of yourself and everything that you really care about.
Yeah. Honestly, that's so true. Thank you so much for, you know, joining us here today, talking about this, you know, sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and your research. We really appreciate that here. Is there anywhere that we can follow you?
Well, the only thing I'm really active on is Instagram, honestly, which is just Kayla Pinkerman, but 2 A's at the first A in Kayla, if that makes sense.
We'll put it right here, guys.
Right, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then our last segment for all of our TaeTalk interviewees, we like to do Tae Says Try This. So if you want to share with the world something that you feel like they should know more about, something that you've discovered that you feel like is like a hidden treasure.
Yeah, okay. So just piggybacking off of what we were just talking about, actually, the whole like self-image and stuff, there's a book that actually pretty much, I mean, aside from my mom, taught me like everything I know about this whole subject, and kind of really like was what motivated me to like look into myself more than just like worrying about what my body looks like, because I've always been like that. Like that's really all I cared about and stuff. So what really opened my eyes was the book. It's called The Untethered Soul, and I'm not totally sure what the author's name is, but it's a really great read. It's short, it's pretty easy to understand. It's one of those books that you totally want to take notes on, and I recommend it to everybody.
Yay! Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and again, thank you so much for being here, Kayla.
Yes, it was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And then until next time, guys, TaeTalk, we are out.
It's so much it makes you cry.